ballot boxes. He had the GDF and the Army, and Mr. Granger was involved in that process. The CIA reports said that he was involved in the election rigging. But today, they tried to steal the election in front of the world. And you know what Mr. Granger said in 2015, on the 13th of May 2015, 2 days after the elections, that why is GCOM taking so long to the results? He said every one of us by midnight or the next morning have all the statement of polls. He said the media houses have the statement of polls, and everybody know who won the election in 2015 on the 13th of May, which was 2 days after the election. So what is so different? That's what people can't understand with him. The PNC and the APNU went home that night with 879 statement of polls, just like every other party that was involved. They would have totaled up the number. They would have known that they have lost the election overall once the other regions came in. So why is Mr. Granger hiding? That is what is baffling every citizen in our country. As you said earlier, if you won the election and you feel you really won the election, bring all those statement of polls out. GCOM, if you really believe that your numbers are correct in that spreadsheet, show the world. And I think in court today, there was a motion for discovery that will order GCOM to bring the statement of polls out that shows where they got the numbers from. And if they now refuse to do that, that tells you we've got a massive conspiracy going on, and we know the massive conspiracy is going on in our country, but ultimately, is every one of us as citizens, even in the APNU supporters, are being affected by Mr. Granger's inability to come clean. And he needs to come clean.
Yes, and the Guyanese people are depending on it because we want to move forward. As you mentioned earlier, we have COVID-19 to deal with, the coronavirus that is taking many lives across the world. And so that is something that we need to put all of our energies into right now. But instead, we have power-hungry people, just a handful of them, because all Guyanese and the rest of the world can see what is going on. They're just hanging on to power. And we all know by now who the winner of these elections are, and that is the PPPC. And if you go back to, we have already published our statement of polls. We published our tally sheets as well, and
the small parties that were part of the Region 4 also went ahead and did their own review and tabulated the results. They have come out and endorsed that Irfan Ali is the president-elect of Guyana. They have publicly said that. The observer groups have used terms of transition, of government, smooth transition. They have come out basically condemning the tabulation process. So they had the same amount of statement of polls. And you know, it's very difficult to rig an election like they're trying to do. Every one of the polling agents and the political party on the night of 2nd of March left with a statement of poll of that ballot box. Observers had to sign it. Presiding officer had to sign it. The polling agents for each political party. It's almost 6 to 7 signatures on each statement of poll. So it is no doubt that you can't figure out how to fake that, because all I need to do is get a presiding officer or get a polling agent to bring their copy. You know, I've got a family member who was an observer, and he showed me his copy. He signed the signature on ballot box X. And so it's very difficult for them to not be able to validate the numbers they're putting in. And they've got to come clean. The numbers in the spreadsheet do not match the numbers on the statement of polls. I worked the night all of this happened when the spreadsheet came out from Mr. Mingo and from Mr. Lowenfield. It was fascinating to see. You know, my statement of poll says we had 14 for APNU in certain areas. Next thing you know, the GCOM clerk said 114. Where did they get 140 from? It was blatantly that they put in the numbers. And if you see, there's a picture floating around that is accurate with Valda Lawrence sitting at the GCOM table with the statement of polls and at the computer. What the heck was she doing at that computer? Absolutely. I mean, so this rigging, I hope as we move forward, and I hope the international community will bring about sanctions even prior to a swearing in, because we have now passed the stage of reality. Past the stage of reality.
Now, we were talking about statements of poll, and we've been seeing a lot of garbage, as I call it, on social media being peddled by APNU, AFC coalition, their social media trolls that they have there. And it's interesting to see some of the garbage that they put out there. So I want you to educate our viewers on what statements of polls are and how the PPP would have gotten these into their possession, what it means, and just educate them, because they're peddling a lot of garbage out there.
Yeah. So we know when we went to the polls on 2nd of March, we all had our ballots that after we put the X, we put it into a box. At the end of the night, now that box was opened up in front of all the party officials there, GCOM, the observers, and you count the ballot. One for APNU, two for PPP, one for Change Guyana, whatever the numbers are. Then those were put on a tally sheet. And then after that, the statement of polls is created, saying that the PNC, APNU, got 100 votes, PP got 110 votes, whatever that number is, Change Guyana, the Liberty Party. And after that, then everyone has to make sure it matched their tally sheet, matched their numbers that they had during the day. Not a single complaint ended up in that evening of March 2nd, when all those statements of polls was signed by the political parties. No one in the APNU, no one in the PPP, no one in the observer groups complained that there was any errors in those statement of polls. When we started now the count for Region 4, the verification process, GCOM then brings out the 879. They had all 879 on their desk, and then we started with different parts of Region 4. I sat there, GCOM called out a number initially, and it matched the statement of polls. Not till we got to the 400 or so statement of polls that they decided to stop using it, because they realize now that the numbers that they have is not going to add up, and they need to figure out how to rig it. They stopped the process and brought a spreadsheet, which the numbers now did not match the next 400 statement of polls. So it's very difficult to rig this election without actually going through election fraud. And that's what has happened. It's electoral fraud that GCOM and APNU has conspired to do. Because if they were to bring out all the statement of polls, and now I have my statement of polls, and you see it, the numbers marked off, it should be marked off on my sheet because it's carbon copies. So every observer group, every political party would be able to see if it's on authentic statement of polls. So very difficult to rig this election using the statement of polls. But the only way, if right now this could be resolved by APNU bringing out the 879 statement of polls, or GCOM. GCOM is responsible for the election. Why the heck they can't show the world the 879 statement of polls for Region 4? It baffles the mind. So they've dug the grave so deep that they can't get out of it, and they continue to hurt every citizen. And as an APNU supporter out there, if you're watching this program, you have to ask yourself the question too, why doesn't your leader of APNU and the president that is in office right now, why are they so afraid to present, both GCOM and APNU, the 879 statement of polls? The PP did it, the other parties did it, the observer groups have done it. Why wouldn't you want to know that you won or lost the election fair and square? That is, you need to be asking Mr. Granger that as you see what is peddled out there with the garbage. Very difficult to rig this election. They are rigging it through electoral fraud by adding numbers in their spreadsheets that doesn't match the statement of polls. And the only way we can verify that is through the statement of polls. The last step is opening the ballot boxes, right? As we did the night of election, open it and count it. Count it in front of the world. CARICOM came in to help facilitate that process. Mr. Granger had agreed, and Dr. Jagdeo had agreed. Instead of them starting that process the day the CARICOM leaders came, they did not start it. They waited 2 days before they started, then they filed the court case to stop it. It's madness and nonsense. Mr. Granger got to be the most incompetent, insensible old man that I've ever met, because the world has seen what has happened, and he got to come clean to make sure that he doesn't let Guyana fall into the trap that, Dr. or Sir Ramsaroop came out today, basically says we're heading towards a failed state. If we don't stand up for democracy, we don't follow the rule of law, we don't have a transparent count in our election, we're heading to a failed state, because the next step of sanctions is going to be significantly against a lot of personal sanctions will come. So if you're an APNU person and you believe, okay, APNU going to declare themselves the winner and vote and swear themselves in, and you're going to take a position with an APNU government, an illegal APNU government, the personal sanctions, not only is the visa pulled, people think it's just visas. Visas is pulled for the individual, they're pulled for the family members. So if any one of those former ministers have any children studying in the United States, those visas would be pulled. They will be sent home back the next day. Assets that is trackable, whether it's outside of Guyana or inside Guyana, that could be frozen, will be frozen. And that's what Mr. Granger is taking his own people down that path, is putting them at risk. Now, the bilateral sanctions on Guyana is significant. None of us want those sanctions to happen to us, because ultimately Guyana will suffer. And I don't believe the United States or Britain or any one of the Western countries want to do that. They want to see a resolution to this problem. They want it done now, and they want to make sure that Mr. Granger understands it's time for him to concede, transparent with the polls, recount the ballot boxes, and let's put Irfan Ali as the duly elected president in office. That is as simple that Mr. Granger is faced with. And the APNU supporters got to understand, it's okay to understand you lost. The PP lost an election in 2015. They had a smooth transition of power to Mr. Granger. Mr. Granger now has lost the election. Why can't he do the same and have a smooth transition? Dr. Irfan Ali talks about inclusive government. He talks about a development plan for all Guyana, across all regions. We got a lot to look forward to. What we are giving away, what Mr. Granger is giving away, is all that excitement, all that dream of where Guyana would have been in the next 5 years. He is hurting our economy. He's hurting every one of our pocketbooks. He needs to stop this and get on with allowing Mr. Ali to be sworn in as the next president.
Rightfully.
I mumbled a lot there, but
no, rightfully, because the PPPC did win the elections, and we have our SOPs to prove that. The other parties that contested can also attest to this. GCOM can attest to this, but they're just, playing a game, because we have people, as I said earlier, trying to hold on to power. And like Dr. Ramsaroop has explained, the SOPs that the APNU is trying to discredit, that we would have published our copies, which every other party would have had a copy of that, because you have the signatures on it as well. We cannot fabricate those things. We cannot make up SOPs.
And they have some significant security features. So if GCOM wants to argue, or APNU wants to argue, you put them all together, the UV light on every one of the statement of polls, the barcode, the 7 security measures. So you would know right away if somebody had a fake SOP. And it shouldn't be that difficult again for us.
And that is the reason why they had to resort to using a spreadsheet. Because if you check the actual SOPs, the only people that have a different number on their SOP is APNU and GCOM.
Yeah.
Those are the only persons with different numbers on the SOP. So what does that tell you, Guyanese?
And then why are everyone else guarding the ballot boxes except APNU? Why are they not concerned? Is there a conspiracy with the police force? Which is what I'm very shocked at, what the police force have been doing to our party officials that are there, legally there to be in the compound. They want to limit, just today they want to limit us viewing the containers at different angles. Why is the police taking instructions from the political side? They need to understand they're there to protect those ballot boxes, no different than we're there to protect the ballot boxes.
And the police should be working, not taking orders from the government. They should not be. We actually have a caretaker president.
Yes,
we don't even have ministers in government functioning. So just so you know.
And one point that I think they should be noted: the chairperson of GCOM and the commission has authority to put all this to an end. They legally have the authority to stop this whole madness. The commission can meet, the chairperson can call a meeting, and she can vote along with whichever commissioner is going to vote to stop this process, to ensure that the recount happens, and ensure that all the SOPs are declared. And where is the chairperson? Why and where is she hiding? I don't know. The law allows her to call a meeting of the commission and ensure that this process comes to an end, and the legal way of verifying the statement of polls verifying the ballots are done, and a declaration of the winner is taken. Where is she? Is she following orders again from Mr. Granger? Is she afraid of Mr. Granger? The old man, I don't know, Justice Claudette Singh, you should not. You're a judge, have been a judge for 30 plus years. And one man who had office of the president title for the last 5 years can be more powerful than you. You have the law on your side. You've got to get on with doing the business of our nation. The fact is the law gives you that authority. The president has no authority over you. But he has authority over his party. He is the leader of APNU. He is the political leader of APNU. He needs to stop the madness too. As the candidate, concede. Everywhere else in the world, when you lose an election, you concede. It may be hard, you may cry, you may come up with a nice message, but the fact is you concede the election when you lose it. You don't hang on to power. We're not in Africa. Mr. Granger, he and the Ghana president seems to be buddies. I said maybe he's looking to be exiled in Ghana because he gave the man the highest award in Guyana. For what reason? Maybe he knows that he was going to plan to do this. And you know, when those airplanes land for dictators, we saw it with Noriega, we saw it in Haiti, we saw it in Bolivia. There are places, other places around the world, when dictators fall, they fall hard. I don't know why Mr. Granger would allow Guyana, a democratic state that believes in the rule of law. Our forefathers fought for democracy. We had this on the Burnham in the dictatorship. 92, democracy came back to Guyana. There's no way you, Vanelda, or any one of the new people that are part of society will ever allow Guyana to fall in dictatorship. You know about democracy.
Yes, definitely. And that's why, as our leader indicated, if you would have been keeping abreast with his interviews, we are not going to stop. If they think that they're demotivating us and we're running out of energy, absolutely not. If you look at the crowd out there every night guarding those containers and those ballot boxes, it's amazing to see the motivation people have. People are coming out more and more every night because we have to protect our democracy, and we're not going to allow our country's democracy to be trampled upon. We are not going to allow President Granger to make our country a dictatorship. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. And in 2020, we definitely cannot allow blatant rigging of an election, electoral fraud. That is unacceptable. And I'd like to remind the viewers, and as you would know, the OAS in their statement, if you read that, you're going to see that they have also said that our SOPs that we would have published remain unchallenged. There's absolutely nothing that has been put out there by APNU that can discredit our publications that we made of our SOPs and our tally sheets. And that is because they are the true thing, they're the real thing. And if you take a look at it and stop, listening to the foolishness that APNU's putting out there, using their trolls, you're going to see for yourselves. Any right-thinking person will see that the PPP could not have fabricated those things. We wouldn't just put that out there. That would land you where? In jail. And if you do your own tabulation, you're going to see that the PPPC won these elections by a landslide victory. And that did not just fall in our laps. You want to ask, okay, how did PPP win the elections? Look at our campaigning. Look at our campaigning and compare that to a fest and a party that the APNU AFC had, and then they're wondering,
And it was a failure of the Granger administration. I mean, the taxes that he put on Guyana, the poor economic plans that he had, he never did a single new project. So I think what shocked them was Region 4, that a lot of people that they thought will go vote for them did not go to the polls. Their own supporters. Yep. They rigged 136,000, but only 114,000 went to the polls and voted for them. They thought they should get 136,000. That's what the fake statement of poll or declaration by Mr. Mingo said.
Yes.
But that's what difference of 20,000 plus did not go to the polls.
And you're right, because I remember seeing Granger at a campaign actually saying Region 4 is going to be the deciding factor of these elections. So they definitely got a shock. I'm surprised that they haven't a heart attack.
Yeah. And I think they got a shock across the country that the PP in 9 regions were over 50,000 votes in the lead. You can't make those numbers up. In Region 9, in Region 1, in Region 7, their own regions, they were shocked at the amount of votes the PP got, and people were demonstrating their anger really at Mr. Granger for what he has done to the economy. The miners in Region 7, the workers in Berbice, 30,000 people out of work. So the reality is, Mr. Granger, you lost the election fair and square. Your people did not come out and vote in Region 4 the way you thought them. And APNU supporters need to understand that, again, you did vote for Mr. Granger. It's your party and your choice to vote the way you want to. But Guyana is a democratic state. We need to now move on with running the business. The PPP has done a very good job of putting a multi-ethnic team together as part of their candidates.
And even our manifesto,
yes,
that we would have consulted with civil society to be able to put out that manifesto with plans. We didn't see any plans from APNU AFC, and in the past 5 years, all they've done was fail the Guyanese people. And so for them to even now think that they deserve 136,000 votes in Region 4 and more across the other 9 regions, that is ridiculous, because the Guyanese people have suffered. People know what they went through 5 years under APNU AFC. And so for them to feel as though they deserve those votes and they earned votes that they did not, I mean, the SOPs say it all, the polls. You go back into the boxes, you're going to see.
I think by 4 o'clock that day on 2nd of March, they knew they lost that election, because South Georgetown, their strongholds in Region 4 did not go out to vote. The lines were short. Mm-hmm. And, even in Linden, although they got more votes than the PP, which is expected, they got 19,000 votes in Linden, or in Region 10, but Region 10 numbers had moved to 36,000 people should have voted. They only got 19,000 out of the 36. The PP got 3,000. So they would have expected, they needed almost 27,000 in Region 10 to make up some of the numbers that they wouldn't have had in Region 4. And Region 10 did not go overwhelmingly and vote for them, even though they won that region. Even in Region 7, although they won the region, they did not win it overwhelmingly that they thought they would win it. So their own supporters failed to show up and vote for them, and a lot of their supporters of the past voted for the PPP, and that's why we have won the election, by a landslide, over 3 seats. There's not just a 1-seat majority now. If you calculate the number, the PP will have 3 seats majority in Parliament. And I think that's what's worrying some, Mr. Granger. They're trying to change now the narrative. They're talking power sharing and all. Power sharing, and the narrative should only be democracy. And Dr. Ali talks about an inclusive government. He wants to ensure he is an equal opportunity president for Guyana. And that's what all of us got to look forward to, whether you're an APNU supporter or a PP supporter or any one of the other supporters. Civil society, though, you mentioned civil society, has come out strong. I mean, the private sector has basically stand up and says to Mr. Granger, why not get this done? Because businesses are being affected by his failure to act. And now we have the virus threat on top of us. We are going to shut Guyana down by itself, by the poor management. And then what I want to make sure the viewers understand too, around the world, I've looked at all the statements by the ministers of health throughout the world. They are very compassionate to people that have the virus. They're quarantining them, they're putting them in areas, they're making sure the right drugs get to them. They're taking care of them in a compassionate way. Mr. Granger put out an executive order that he wants to burn our property. He wants to destroy any personal items I may have. And if I terrible to have this virus and I die, he wants to cremate me as fast as he can so that, my family. I mean, it's a 1945 during the Cold War days that came from probably the old British system. They brought that 1945 executive order to say they want to destroy our property. Mr. Granger needs to understand the virus is a serious threat to our nation, but we have to be compassionate. We have to make sure we take care of each other, and we need to make sure we do it in the right manner. Those policies that he wants to do, and Ms. Valda Lawrence, of all people, have the executive order to tear my property apart, that is madness again. They should not be allowed to continue running Guyana the way they're doing it right now.
With their dictatorship-type traits that they have, as I like to say. I've been saying that throughout the entire campaign, and I continue to say that. And we continue to see them operate in a dictatorship-type manner. We they're trying to discredit, that's another thing I want to talk about. They're trying to discredit the statements that would have been put out by international organizations, the ABCE. And if you don't know what ABCE stands for, that's American, British, Canadian, and European. Those bodies, international organizations, the countries and their reps, Secretary of State of the US, and they're trying to discredit, I heard that they actually said something about Donald Trump.
Yeah, they actually sent Donald Trump a tweet telling him, do not get involved in Guyana politics, stay out, and the Western world is a partner for Guyana. This is not, interference. Our law and the government and GCOM and the political parties agree for observers to come into Guyana. So it is not that these people just showed up, Carter Center and the OAS and the CARICOM came in on their own. They were invited based on our law to ensure an election goes smooth and democracy is upheld. So when you listen to the Secretary of State, though, it's a powerful statement that they have made. He said that de facto governments are not treated the same way as democratic governments. That is a military term. I'm an ex-military officer. That's a military term that says, Mr. Granger, do not swear yourself in. On top of that, they added about, sanctions, that personal sanctions and other sanctions will come if Mr. Granger finds any loophole to swear himself in. So even though the court may rule whether the recount is legal or not legal, it's still an illegal process of how Mr. Mingo came up with the numbers. We cannot forget that. So regardless of what happens in these cases, it goes back to GCOM. Could GCOM validate Mr. Mingo's declaration? They can't. Mr. Lowenfield, if he puts a declaration in front of the commission, cannot validate it. So Mr. Granger will still be an illegal president if he swears himself in, and everything that the Secretary of State talks about and all the other organization will come to play. But I think Dominique Gaskin, the son-in-law of Mr. Granger, and his wife is the daughter of Mr. Granger, so it's a family discussion that they came out publicly with a statement. And one profound thing he said, all these organizations and 6 or 7 political parties except APNU came up with the same results that says something went wrong with the tabulation. It wasn't transparent. It wasn't accountable. Accounting practices did not work. Verification did not happen. And he said, how could so many organizations come up with the same line? It can be a conspiracy against APNU government. He's part of the APNU government. And he basically says, who vex? He's telling Mr. Granger, get the recount done, get the verification done. If you want to do all regions, Dr. Jagdo said it's fine. He has no problem. We have no problem going through every single ballot box throughout the region because we know by no shadow of doubt that we have won the election. And as long as no tampering is done, and even if something tampering was ever done, the statement of polls is still the valid documents that are legal, that could be declared, a winner can be declared by the statement of polls. So Dr. Ali, regardless of what they do, is the duly elected president of Guyana. And that's what everyone needs to understand and get in their mind, that no matter how finagling Mr. Granger does through the court system, what happens with GCOM, what Claudette Singh may or may not do, the fact is it's still an illegal process. Dr. Irfan Ali is the duly elected president of Guyana.
And going back into those boxes will reveal that, as we've been saying over and over again. And I have said so many times that Justice Claudette Singh, she's worked for so many years of her life to build her reputation, to build her integrity, and for her to stoop so low. I remember seeing her on the media in the courts, outside of the courts, promising that she would ensure that the recount is done if there's no resolution to this.
And she has the authority to do that.
Yes, and she does. She is the chair of GCOM. So what is the issue? Why is it that she cannot come out? She's not saying anything either. She's been very silent for most of the time. You don't see her, you don't hear anything from her. She says absolutely nothing.
And Kaichor News published the piece of the law that shows the commission and her has the authority. If you want to go look at Kaichor News today, they've got a nice piece on the law. So she can't hide anymore.
And APNU, they're so disrespectful that they're accusing the international community of colluding with the PPP so that the PPP can win the elections. Absolutely not. We go back into the boxes. It's as simple as that. Go back to the boxes.
Or just produce the statement of polls. Let's see the statement of polls they have. I mean,
Well-
both sides will tell the truth, but they don't want either one.
No, because the SOPs that they're going to produce are going to be fraudulent.
Yes. So again, if the electoral fraud is so deep, I think they don't know how to get out of this.
No, they don't. And
Yeah.
as you mentioned earlier, what they're finding difficult right now, and that's why we're at a halt right now, is a path to being able to swear Granger in, because their rigging, blatant rigging, attempts to rig the elections have been exposed to not just Guyanese, but the entire world. And that is very, very embarrassing for them.
And there's no path. There's really no legal path for Mr. Granger to swear himself in. So he's going to have to make it up as he goes along, because if he only swears himself in, again, the international community, the PPP Progressive Party, the people of Guyana, all the other political parties will not recognize him as a legal president. The fact is, so no matter what he is trying to do, all he's doing right now is hurting us. You open up your program with embarrassment, and it's just not. Economics, let me just hit home some economics. We know over the last 5 years that a lot of our industries were struggling. We know sugar was shut down. 10,000 sugar workers fired, no work. 30,000 people out of work. We know the rice industry, that we were struggling to get markets. We know the mining industry went down because of all the taxes that Mr. Granger put on them, 14% VAT on heavy duty machinery. Our agriculture sector was struggling. Our tourism industry was struggling. The oil was their savior. They all made all those 6, 7 of our main industries go down the tubes while they dream of our oil money. Well, oil prices now is below the $35 a barrel that Exxon needs to be able to make a profit when they bring the oil out. Now, Exxon has shut down because of the virus. Exxon has stopped building their headquarters. When this is all done, Exxon has a major decision to make. Do they continue to bring that oil out? Because it's now going to be below market value, and they will not bring and affect their stock prices based on the barrel of oil price. So we've got not a lot to look forward to. The fact is, the $55 million that they sold, the first million barrels of oil that came up, when they sold that oil was at $68 a barrel. So how come we only got 55 million? That money is in New York Bank. The governor of the Bank of Guyana said it's not accessible without a parliamentary order or some more legal issues. So, and then if we go into sanctions, U.S. will freeze all of that oil money. So the dream Mr. Granger had of have oil to save Guyana is no longer there. We now have to go back. Dr. Irfan Ali has to go back now to the traditional manner, similar to what Dr. Jagdeo did in the 90s and the early 2000s, is to take back our industries, rebuild each one of them, expand our tourism industry, expand our agriculture industry, look at how we can bring the natural gas to shore to bring our electricity costs and energy costs down. Look at all these programs to make sure now we rebuild the industries and make sure that our people have an opportunity to continue progressing in life. Oil, that dream of oil, gotta stop. Mr. Granger needs to know that now he's affecting Guyana. We need to go back to making sure these industries sustain themselves. And the longer he waits and hide as an illegal president, or whatever, caretaker president of no president at all, he is hurting our economy. And ladies and gentlemen, across the aisle, APNU supporters, that, all of us wouldn't have money. When there's no money to pay the public servants, what happened, Mr. Granger? You're going to tell hundreds of thousands or 50,000 public servants they don't have money to pay? Because if a business is not making money, they can't pay their taxes. If you're not making money, you're not paying your taxes in the system. So the rippling effect on Guyana is going to be significant. So with less taxpayers' money, with less money coming into our country, because now there's no ships coming into our country to take our rice out, so we can't sell our rice. We can't sell any produce in the market. We can't ship any goods out. So no one is making money. So where is Mr. Granger going to find money 3 weeks from now to pay a public servant and to pay the police force and pay the army? We are going into an economic depression, and we need to wake up, all of us across Guyana. This is not a fight for the PPP alone. This is a fight for democracy. You that may have voted for APNU, you're going to be in the same mess we are in. The fact is, all of us with the economic decline and the threat of the virus and Mr. Granger holding on to power as a dictator will hurt each one of us.
Yes, and they like to say that they care about the people. They don't even care about their own supporters. So how can you claim to care about Guyanese people when you are operating in that manner? One thing I want to talk about before we wrap up the show is the case that we have right now that we're fighting, which is the injunction to stop the recount. Just some facts for the viewers. You know that the judge who is actually hearing this case actually has a son-in-law who is a candidate for the APNU, and the person who would have brought this case was also a candidate at the local government elections for APNU as well. Dr. Ramsaroop, can you tell us some of the implications that we would face should this judge rule in favor of APNU to stop the recount?
I mean, as I said, I think we probably put a lot of emphasis on these cases. But regardless, I mean, one, you shouldn't be fighting the injunction to get the recount. CARICOM head said we should have the recount. Mr. Granger said we should have the recount. Dr. Jagdeo said we should have the recount. The chairperson of GCOM said we should have the recount. So everyone is in agreement. So Mr. Granger can tell his candidate, why are you going to stop? Why did you file an injunction? Because he now has done that to himself. If you look at the lawyers, some of the lawyers are part of his candidate list. So the judge should have recused himself just on the basis of bias. He didn't. But, you know, no matter though, what all of us in Guyana needs to understand, no, regardless of what happens here, there is no path for Mr. Granger to legally get sworn in. So, judge, we're going to go through this legal process, probably all the way to the CCJ again. The madness continues. The no confidence vote proved the madness that the lengths and breadth they would go to shut Guyana down just to hold on to power. Mr. Granger, you lost the election. The old man, you've lost the election. Come on. Move on to your retirement age. Your son-in-law is telling you move on. Dr. Ramphal is telling you move on. The CARICOM heads is telling you move on. The Secretary of State of the United States is telling you move on. It's time for us to move ahead, get the recount done, if that's what, or all of this could be resolved if Mr. Granger, who knows he lost the election, just get up one day on television and concedes the election. We don't have to go open any ballot box. He knows he lost the election. Opening the ballot box is just going to prove the electoral fraud. So he can actually save face and maybe those in GCOM that did this and some of the APNU people that did it needs to go to jail. But if Mr. Granger wants to quit this now, stop the electoral fraud, just concede the election. He knows he has 879 statement opposed. Just look in 2015, 13th of May, what he said. He said he had all the statement opposed. He knew APNU won the election that same night or the next morning in 2015. He never came out in 2020 and said he won the election. He waited till all the recount was going, or the verification was going on. Then they decided to rig it when they realized that they're leaving power. And that's the madness that we're seeing right now.
And he talks about honesty and decency and integrity. So come on, just concede. We're urging you. President Granger, just concede and let us get this over with, because it is clear that the PPPC won the elections. As I said, the SOPs will show that. You go back into the ballot boxes. They asked for a recount of regions and they actually started and then they withdrew because PPP started to get more votes.
Yeah, because the spoil votes now, when you look at the spoil votes a second time, you would see that the X really didn't cross the line, and you pay a little more attention. In the middle of the night, it looks like it crossed the line. You said, okay, it's a spoiled vote. So when you start going back now to those boxes, you potentially can get more. And one other point about the rigging. Mr. Mingo rigged the election in the general election, but he forgot to rig the regional elections. So in Region 4, He's saying 6,000 of us didn't vote for the bottom X. We just forgot to put the bottom X. So he rigged the top half, but he forgot to rig the second half to match the numbers up. So the electoral fraud is so evident that I don't know how they're going to get out of this. The only way is probably the conceding.
Yeah, and it's been very clumsy indeed, because as we saw in the Commonwealth statement, they would have written that they observed that when Mr. Mingo started to call numbers, he started to call in numbers that exceed the number of persons that actually voted.
Yeah. So
how can you have 2,500 votes, for example, but then you only have 2,000 persons that voted, right? So it's been clumsy.
Clumsy
the rigging was clumsy.
Rigging. Yeah.
I mean, that just exposes the incompetence that we've been talking about.
And more and more, the WPA, as part of the coalition, has come out against the count. They want the recount to happen in all regions. The
JFP.
Justice Party, CN Sharma Party, have come out saying, do the recount, get it over with. They don't want to be part of a government that's illegal. So the coalition has fallen apart. Two of their senior partners have come out calling for a recount, calling for Mr. Granger and GCOM to come clean. And, I think more and more, every day we're finding more and more people coming out. And as the ordinary Guyanese, all of us walking the streets, as we talk with each other, whether it's in our household or on social media, very simple. Very simple that Mr. Granger did not win this election, and he can't prove it. And you just need to ask him, prove it to the world, Mr. Granger. If you feel so confident, then why didn't you swear in so far if you thought you won the election? We would not have gone through all of this.
Yes, and another thing is that our leader would have indicated that should they go ahead and block the recount and Granger be sworn in, we will be recognizing Dr. Ali as the president of Guyana.
And the world would be doing
yes,
that. Yeah.
We will not be accepting any results, any declarations, any swearing in of Granger, as long as the results were not arrived at through a credible and transparent manner. And we've seen that lacking throughout the entire verification and tabulation process by GCOM. And we have said we will not be recognizing Granger as president once he's sworn in. Dr. Ali will be the president who we will be recognizing. And like Dr. Ramsaroop said, the world will recognize Dr. Ali as the president of Guyana. And President Granger will not be speaking on behalf of me. He will not be speaking on behalf of many Guyanese across this country. And so he will be met by protest wherever he goes to speak. Our leaders already said this. And so we're just waiting to see what is going to be the outcome of that case come Wednesday. And then we will know what the next steps are to take.
And, I agree with you. The world have already basically said, they've used the term smooth transition of government. They have said, we have electoral fraud. They have said the tabulation process is not correct. Our local observers, private sector, AmCham, political parties have all said the same thing. So it's not just the outsiders saying it. It's everybody internally saying the same thing. So we have gone past that whole process of this massive conspiracy. Right now, even as I mentioned earlier, APNU supporters, the coalition is falling apart because the coalition partners do not want to be part of an illegal process. So they're all stepping away one by one, whether it's individual or whether by political parties. And you're going to find more and more every day, prominent people that would have voted for APNU will come out basically and discredit what Mr. Granger is doing. And it makes me remember one statement back in 1989. I think I was in the U.S. military at the time, and President Carter went to Panama. Noriega was a dictator in Panama, and he basically looked at Mr. Noriega and he said, are you an honest man or are you a thief? Talking about the elections and electoral fraud. And I believe when I see all those honest and decent signs around the country, the APNU still left them up. I got to ask Mr. Granger, are you an honest man or are you a thief? The election is being stolen in front of all of our eyes. Stop the madness. If you're a patriot of Guyana, Mr. Granger, the old man, you've got to stop this madness and allow the process to be completed and allow that the commission to declare the rightful winner of the election, Dr. Irfan Ali.
And before I wrap up the program, what I want to do is just commend those persons who have been coming out in their numbers day and night, guarding those containers, those ballot boxes, because they understand what that means for Guyana and our democracy. And so I just want to take some time to thank you for your dedication, your hard work. It's not going unnoticed. We see you every day, every night. You're out there 24/7. And Mr. Granger, APNU, GCOM, whoever you are, if you think that you're going to steal an election in front of our faces and we're going to accept it, we will not. We will not stop fighting. You're not going to wear us down. We're not tired, and we will never get tired, because fighting for our country and fighting for our democracy is very important for us, especially the young people. I know so many young persons that I've interacted with. They're very disappointed that in 2020, you have to go through this. And this has been a roller coaster of emotions. A lot of persons would have been first-time voters, and seeing that their votes cannot be counted, and the APNU, AFC, and their collusion with GCOM to rig the elections, steal the elections in front of the world is just absolutely ridiculous. And young people, I urge you, keep the faith. We're fighting for you, and this will not go down. This will not go down.
No, and I like the term young people, because the old man is shattering your dreams. The dreams of a better Guyana that we were about to take off, given our new economy and what was going to happen in Guyana in the next 5 years. Mr. Granger, the old man, is shattering our young people's dream of getting a life, so they don't need to leave our shores to go look for a better life. We have it right here in Guyana. Mr. Granger needs to stop it and ensure that our young people have a chance to develop themselves as any other person in a democratic world.
So before I close the program, you have any final words of encouragement that you want to give to the Guyanese out there and all of those persons? I like to do this because every day it takes a lot out of you. You know that. We know that. Our supporters, even the Guyanese out there, the neutral persons, just persons in civil society across the board, they're frustrated. They feel like they're losing faith and hope, and they're not sure what next is going to come. Every day it's some new development, and it's nothing that seems to be close to the light at the end of the tunnel. So, Dr. Ramsaroop?
Well, it's a long process. The fight for democracy doesn't end at all. The fight for democracy is a continuous process around the world. You have seen, governments fall over the years, dictatorship in Iraq and Libya and Bolivia recently. And so fight for democracy requires all of us to be engaged, to be part of the process. I know it's as our host said, it's a rough time. We've got, we need to stay safe because of the virus that is a threat to our nation. We've got to ensure that our families are protected. We've got to make sure our economics is in place. So it's a long haul, and we are committed, and all of us are committed. We hold hands across Guyana. We don't have to stand up in rallies anymore, but if we hold hands across Guyana, whether it's through social media, whether it's through the phone call, whether it's through, telling your family abroad that we will stand up for democracy and ensure the rule of law is adhered to in Guyana, we will continue to do that. And you know that a lot of us out there is fighting for democracy. We enjoy your support because that is what makes this all better. Because ultimately, when you look at your young child tonight and you kiss that baby goodnight, you would know that your fight for democracy is their future. The future is here, and they've got to make sure, and you've got to make sure, we all stand by this. Don't falter, don't get discouraged. Democracy will prevail, and Mr. Granger, the old man, will go. And the faster he goes, the better off for Guyana, and let our dreams get back on track. Let Dr. Irfan Ali get a chance as an equal opportunity president to put our plans in place in terms of rebuilding our known industries, expanding our energy, newfound oil, looking across Guyana and rebuild our nation to an exciting economic platform where every single Guyanese, regardless if you voted for Afternoon Region 10 or Region 7 or voted for the PPP in any other parts of the region, you know that Dr. Irfan Ali is committed to inclusive government. He's committed to ensure that every Guyanese benefit from our new economics that will come to us, and he will make sure he's a president for all Guyana. And that's what we have to look forward to, and that's what our democracy is all about.
And like our motto says, we're stronger together. And so we just urge you to keep the faith. We're here fighting for you every day, and eventually you're going to have to join that fight too. We know persons are coming out every day, as I said, and so we know that you're there and you're strong and you're fighting with us, you're holding our hands, and we will get through this. Democracy will prevail, and good will overcome evil. So viewers, thank you for tuning in. I hope that you have a blessed evening. Goodbye.
That was a paid program, and the views and opinions expressed were those of the host and other speakers and do not reflect the views and opinions of TVG Channel 28.